Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the European crossover webinar. And we have gone and seen the euro move higher. Actually, it's at the highs of the day at this point. See, it's certainly gone and made a push. There's been some talk of potentially some progress, which has actually allowed it to go on and boost up a bit. Things are under a little bit of pressure at the Sunday Asian Open. But has certainly gone and pushed higher, not significantly higher, and has some key resistance there at 1481, but certainly going and moving higher, currently at 1456. Then we did get earlier German producer prices. Came in flat. They're expecting a gain of 0.2 month over month, and year over year down 1.6, came in down 1.8. And current account negative 10.5 billion. And that's going to be it. We do not even have any U.S. data. And then tomorrow we'll see here. Well, it looks like to be a fairly light week as far as data goes. And looking across the board, not a whole lot shown here in cable. Dollar CAD has pushed up a little bit higher and has actually fared better than some of the other pairs. Looking at the Australian dollar, still hanging around this 70-cent level. Dollar yen has gone and pared back a bit, and dollar peso relatively quiet. We can go on and take a look at the indices. Those have actually started out the week a bit weaker here. You can certainly see here from Friday's close. Right here with the NAS moving lower and staying relatively lower. Take a look at the SPOOs. Same thing essentially. And the NAS on the 30-minute. Keeping the pressure on here. And essentially the same thing we're seeing here in the SPOOs. And the Dow, which I don't pay much attention to, but same pattern. A bit weaker here since Friday. Take a look with crude oil, just a bit weaker here, 40.35. Not a whole lot of action going on here in crude. You can see here, fairly restrained price action. Looks to be a start of a quiet week. And Simon shared earnings coming into this week, which can be quite a bit. So we'll move back into FX. Boy, it is a very quiet morning. Well, we did get that data on the current account. So it says Eurozone current account surplus narrows further in May. Current account surplus of the 19 countries sharing the euro narrowed to 7.95 billion euros in May from 14.27, but it is pretty decent pullback in April on a big outflow of secondary income, which includes transfers between residents and non-residents. ECB data showed on Monday. In the 12 months to May, the bloc's current account surplus fell 2.2% of GDP from 2.7 in the preceding year, mostly on a big drop in the surplus on the trade of goods and services. That's going to be on that data that was just released. We saw right here. So euro jumps to 4-month peak on hints of progress in debt talks. Bear with me, move this. Got it. Euro jumps to 4-month peak on hints of progress in debt talks. The euro jumped to a 4-month high against the dollar on Monday, boosted by European leaders saying progress was being made in talks to take on debt jointly to help their economies. The euro gained 0.2 of 14.52. We have risen beyond that. Although currently we're at 14.47. The highest level since March, as EU leaders appeared within a whisker of breaking an impasse over a proposed $750 billion euro recovery fund, with the marathon talks adjusted until 1400 GMT on Monday. Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz and Dutch Prime Minister Rutte, leaders from the two of the so-called Frugal Four, says progress is being made. Rutte says the talks have been close to failing, but the chairman was now working on a EU compromise proposal. The EU seems to be about to overcome a major hurdle. If they come to an agreement, the euro could look for a new trading range, possibly something like 114 to 116 as opposed to 111 to 114. The range has been stuck in for a while, said Kiyosuke Suzuki. The $750 billion euro proposals for the fund are to be raised on behalf of EU countries on capital markets by the EU's Executive European Commission. While that would be a historic step towards a greater fiscal integration for the Union, a group of frugal, wealthy North European states have been reluctant, pushing for a smaller fund and seeking to limit how payouts are split between grants and repayable loans. As European Council President Charles Michel urged leaders to achieve mission impossible. Diplomats said it was possible they would abandon the summit and try again for an agreement next month. If they come to an agreement, we should see a further rally in the euro, said Yujiro Goto, chief currency strategist at Nomura. But many market players also believe the euro will be supported even if the deal is not reached this time, as long as there remains a prospect of a deal on the stimulus. The dollar index was flat at 95.94 with its advance kept in check as investors' risk appetite continues to be strong, underpinned by bets of more stimulus, not just from the Europe, but also from the U.S. A battle in the U.S. Congress over new coronavirus aid began late last week as Republicans and Democrats pushed for the new agenda. The Republicans want the upcoming coronavirus aid bill to cost no more than $1 trillion, while Democrats have pledged to fight for much more in the range of the $3 trillion bill. We see more political pressure on the Republicans to compromise on Democratic objectives because Republicans are trailing badly in the polls. Senate Republicans are not in a position to hold back stimulus, wrote Stephen Englander, head of Global FX at Standard Chartered. Expectations of more government spending have offset worries about rising coronavirus cases in the U.S., as well as fears of deteriorating U.S.-China relations. The British pound fell 0.2 to 25.41. Japanese yen eased to 107.29 per dollar. It did not react to Japan's trade data showing exports in June plunged 26 from a year earlier, worse than expected. And lastly, we'll take a look here. Global markets, euro and eurozone bond markets hold out hope for recovery. Fund stocks are cautious. The eurozone bond markets held out hope European Union leaders would strike a deal on a recovery fund for the bloc's pandemic-ravaged economy on Monday, but the region's stock markets took a cautious turn lower as talks paused. The single currency hit its highest levels against the dollar on since March the 9th at 14.67 after reports of progress following 3 days of negotiations towards the proposed $750 billion euro package. The bond markets also cheered the progress with the risk premium investors pay for holding Italian government debt over Germany, the bloc's benchmark, falling to 162 basis points, the lowest since March 27th. Stock markets kept the optimism in check, however. The Pan-European Stock 600 fell 0.6 in early deals. Talks on the fund were adjourned on Monday until 1400 GMT. After the adjournment was announced, both the Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz and Dutch Prime Minister Rutte said progress was being made. A group of wealthy North European states pushed the summit for a smaller recovery fund and sought to limit how payouts are between the gains and the repayable loans. An attempt to reach a compromise failed on Sunday. A deal envisaging the $400 billion in grants, down from its $500 billion euros, was rejected by the North, which said it saw 350 billion euros as the maximum. Discussions over the grants have since narrowed, with EU Commission Chairman Charles Michel saying that they would be based on a $390 billion euros combined with smaller rebates. The euro has gained on the likelihood that they will come up with some solution at this meeting, said Marshall Gittler. I had expected them to fall or best to come to only a partial agreement, but the fact that they kept it up for long shows that they really are determined to succeed, Gittler said. A successful agreement would probably give the euro a further boost, he said. And here's the euro. And you can see here the Italian government bond yield, or bond spread, I should say. You can see how that's fallen while the euro has climbed here. And in the United States, Congress is set to begin debating a new aid package this week. Several states in the country's south and west improved to new imposed to new lockdowns to curb this virus. The virus has claimed over 140,000 U.S. lives since the pandemic started. Florida, California, Texas, and other southern and western states shattered records for new cases every day. Wall Street is currently trading lower. Oil prices fell, unnerved by the prospect of rising coronavirus cases, halting a recovery in the fuel demand. Henceforth, we're just going and move on now to the analysis. As I mentioned, it's been a relatively quiet morning. So the euro on Friday closed at the best levels of the week. Weekly level ahead is 1557. Immediate moves will be predicated on the outcome of the stimulus fund. Daily levels above the current fray are 1481. You can see I just referenced that. 1481, followed by 1542. Support is 1372, followed by 1337. We'll pull this back to see where we're referencing the 1481 from. And you can see that coming across here. All these different touches as far as open and closes right here at this 1481 area. You see some spikes here with the wicks. Then on the way back down, right there, the wicks come back down to challenge the 1481 before popping right back up. As we break lower, we get one more move above 1481 on the wick. We fall back down here to about 12 and change before rallying back up, and we close at 1481. On that bar, it's hard to tell. Right there, you can see that we close, and then the wicks pop up here. So once again, you can see the significance of 1481. Also on the rally back, you see here the wick got above 1481 but fell back. So once again, you can see the significance of 1481. With that, we'll go and move into the cable. So the cable's key challenge remains garnering a foothold above the weekly level of 2602. Resistance to start the week will be 2665 with support at 2520. Well, once again, if they do get a package, we should go and see the cable move higher. Because we've had so many pushes up here against with the wicks well above the 2602, the key thing is to get a sustained mark above 2602. Yeah, we've got moves above it, but we're not able to sustain it. That will be the key. But resistance looking out is going to be 2665. With support at 2520. Followed by 2478. And currently we're 2570. We're trading. Look at this. Very, very quiet. Look at that. And let's go move into the Aussie dollar. This just continues to stay in a very tight range, but very close to the 70-cent mark. So the Aussie continued to challenge the 70-cent level. Immediate resistance is 70.27, followed by 70.75. Support is going to be 69.31. can see there, right there. We've been at 69.31. Let's go in for a little bit closer look. 70.27 remains the same. 69.31 remains the same for support. Let's go on and move on to the Kiwi. So the Kiwi is treading water with an upside cap of 65.94. We know that. On a stop run, 66.50 will be resistance, followed by 67 even. Support is going to be 64.93, followed by 64.32. So 64.93. And on the stop run, upside resistance on the stop run will be 66.50. Immediately, like I said, we're still looking at 65.94. We'll go and keep that, but if we do get this stop run, we're looking for one up to 66.50. And moving into the Canadian dollar. So the Canadian dollar closed flat on Friday in a quiet session. You can see that we had this small little doji right there. We'll try and zoom in a bit. Right there. So dollar CAD closed flat on Friday in a quiet session. Upside resistance is 36.29, with support at 35.01. The pair has traded the bulk of the prior month within this range. Look at that. If you look at 35, look at that. With the exception of this little pop here, the entire month is traded between 35 and 36.29. And 36.29 on the upside. But like I said, it's amazing to see this. Look at this from here to here. We've traded the entire, over a month really, in this 130 pip trading range, with the exception of these couple of days that popped up. On to the dollar peso. The dollar peso traded the last 3 trading days in a tight range. You can see that right here. Support is going to be 22.17, with a daily close below that allowing a challenge of 21.54, which would be down here. Resistance will be 22.85. So quiet, and move on to the dollar yen. So the dollar yen, after taking a slide from 750, drip down here, has been up and down without any traction over the subsequent sessions. And you can see this up, down, down, up, down. Now currently up a little bit. Resistance is going to be 758. High so far today has been 755. There's 758 with support at 686. And lastly, let's go to the dollar index. The dollar index closed the week at 96 even. A daily close below will allow a move to 95.03 with support coming in at 95.36. Resistance is going to be 96.44 followed by 96.80. Obviously, a lot of this is going to be generated on what happens with the euro. But we are currently here at 95, around 87. So we're going to, in case we do get down there, 95.36, 96.44. And on to the cross rates. Onto the Kiwi Yen. The Kiwi Yen is rudderless, trapped in a 50 pip range from 70 cents to 70.50. Resistance is going to be 70.71, followed by 71.28. Support is now 69.59. You can see this pair hasn't been doing anything. Onto the Euro Yen. So the Euro Yen is marking time below the resistance level of 22.64. Well, actually down above it. Support is 21.51. Closes on either side will determine the next sustained move. Well, obviously we're above it because of what's going on with the Euro, with the recovery fund, and looks like they are making a valid attempt to find progress. So it will be key if we close above 22.64. I think we have to look at this now on a 2-hour chart to see where that resistance would be. So let's move here. Right there, 22.89. So 22.89 is resistance. Although we've been hit a little bit higher, but that's resistance there. But not unusual, they would take out the stops. And resistance at this point is going to be here. Let's go right there. 22.28. 22.28. And let's go and move on now to the Euro odd. So the Euro odd is mired in a range from 63 even to 64. The pair moved from a lower, tighter range to a slightly higher one. Resistance will be 64.96 with support at 62.34. Once again, we moved up because of the whole situation with the euro. So 64.96 on the upside. Support is going to be right there with this close, open and close there. 62.83. Let's go move on to the Euro Kiwi. The Euro New Zealand dollar closed Friday with a spinning top doji. You can see that here. The pair is losing momentum upon the European stimulus package. Resistance will be 75.05 with support at 73.10. So we'll stick with that 75.05. Having a hard time getting beyond that with the strength that we see in the Kiwi overall, or overall strength of the Kiwi. And support will be 73.10. I think we will move that a little bit higher. Support now will be right there, 73.61. And on to the Aussie yen. Well, the Aussie yen continues to test the 75-cent level. Unable to secure a solid break, resistance will be 75.48 on stops. Support is 74.26, followed by 73.83. But like I said, that's if we can trigger some stops, and we've just not been able to do it at this point. We'll go right there with 75.16. And actually, they challenged that earlier this morning also. So 75.16 for the high. And support, we'll go, let's get the 74.26. A couple of pips lower here. And on to the guppy. So the guppy has lost momentum, mired in the 34s. Resistance will be 35.32 with support at 33.78. And lastly was sterling odd. The sterling odd is stagnant. A daily closing break below 78.60 will target 76.79. Resistance will be 80.07. And 78.60. And that does it for FX. We're just in a very quiet market, but really, in all fairness, all of them are, including equities, relatively quiet, although equities are a little bit lower. Euros continue to push up here, 14.66 on its highs, actually. But nothing of any real significance, although we are seeing a little bit of volume come in here. But nothing of any great significance. So just going to pull the gold market over here. We're pressing up against this 1812. Then we on a 2 hour. Nothing of any real significance at this point. But if we're not able to get past this area here, we could see the market start to rotate a little bit lower. But I think they're going to keep it here just for a bit to see if they can get it, still get a move. Nothing appears negative at this point here in gold. I'm talking about even on a shorter term basis. It's still holding up well, but I'm just saying if they just can't get through this in the next 36 hours, they may start to ease back a bit. Euro's still holding up fairly well. And obviously, we're not going to go anywhere until we get find out what happens with the euro, and that will be it. But thank you very much, and thanks for joining us on the European Crossover webinar.